When the Earth's ecosystem collapses, an oligarchy controls the last food supply by genetically modifying seeds to only produce one harvest, thus leading the rest to become desperate for food. After humanity failed to prevent an impending ecological crisis, the world fell into a catastrophe called the New Dark Ages. Edible plants and animals were wiped out after engineered viruses and organisms escaped into the wild. The privileged survivors thrive in the Citadel, an enclosed city led by an oligarchy. Survivors outside these cities are desperate to trade what they can for the Citadel's seeds, which are genetically modified to produce only one harvest. Outside the Citadel, 13-year-old girl Vesper scavenges for food with her drone. She sticks her hand in the mud, looking for edible crops. After she gets a decent harvest, she notices a caterpillar on her hand, so she puts it in a jar. As Vesper heads home, she passes by trees that pulse and breathe. There are also snake-like plants that emerge from the ground, which serve as security for her house. When she gets inside, she makes broth using worms that she propagated and pours some into a fluid bag that feeds Darius, her bedridden father, who's connected to a makeshift machine to breathe. Because of his condition, he uses the drone to communicate and assists Vesper with her daily routines. After feeding her father, Vesper heads to her old lab with the drone. As she treads a dark tunnel while covering her nose and avoiding the walls where parasites open their hungry mouths, Vesper enters a room and shows the caterpillar she found to a skeleton inside. From the drone, Darius tells her to hurry because his battery is running low, so Vesper scolds that he should have stayed home to charge. As she places the caterpillar in a jar and pours water into it, Darius complains how her experiments are a waste of time. Suddenly, he hears a thud. Vesper quickly packs her things and runs out of the building, only to see a pilgrim gathering junk outside. The pilgrim stares at her shortly, then resumes her work. When Vesper arrives home, she notices that the creatures on the ground have been cut off. With his body still inside, Darius assures her that no one is in the house, but she still enters with a knife in hand. Inside, she discovers that the intruders tampered with the generator that supplies power to Darius' respiratory machine. Having used the backups for her experiment, the drone also loses power, so Vesper goes to see her uncle Jonas. As Vesper arrives, she notices a crowd gathering around an injured jug, an artificial human created solely for work. Jonas tells the boy in charge to put the creature out of its misery. As he positions himself, the boy hesitates, so Jonas reminds him that the creature isn't human and won't feel anything. With that, the boy pins the jug down, but it elbows him, making him fall back. The crowd laughs at the boy, so he relentlessly stabs the jug for revenge. After this, the crowd disperses, and Vesper approaches her uncle. She tells him about the generator, but Jonas reminds her that they don't do charity work. The girl assures him that she's not asking for one. Inside Jonas' house, he explains that the Citadel has raised the price for seeds, but his family has what the Citadel wants. Given this, Vesper willingly gives her blood for trade, assisted by a boy named Skinny. During this, Jonas comments that her blood won't be young forever, so she shouldn't waste it on emergencies. He offers shelter for Vesper and her father, but she rejects since he only wants her to become one of his breeders. Vesper believes that she'll be able to get out of their situation using her skills, while her uncle will keep using his own children's blood to acquire seeds from the Citadel. Jonas commends her ambition but reminds her that she alone cannot change the order of things. Unamused, Vesper simply asks for bacteria to run her generator in exchange for her blood. However, Jonas tells her to return in 2 days because he needs to sell her blood first. Knowing that her father won't survive that long, Vesper attempts to steal back her blood, but Jonas throws her outside. Despite this, Vesper later sneaks into Jonas' farm and sees the jug being butchered. Drones pass over her, so she uses the distraction to run to the other side. She bumps into Skinny, but he simply stares at her and lets her through. Vesper immediately steals bacteria and discovers a room filled with plants, so she also steals some of the seeds. At home, she fixes the generator, thus saving her father. She then tucks herself into bed next to her father and tells him about what she found. The next day, she shows him the seeds she plans to make fertile so she'll be hired to work in the Citadel. Darius tells her they'll never hire her, but Vesper thinks that he's just afraid that she'll leave like her mother did. Still, her father claims that dreams cost so much, so she must accept that her place is there. Pissed, Vesper runs into the woods to be alone. There, she finds an unconscious woman with parasites feasting on her injuries. She pulls the parasites off, brings the woman home, and nurses her. The following day, Vesper tells her father that the woman was a wing glider. He orders her to dump the woman in the woods, but Vesper believes that she can help her get to the Citadel. While they talk, the woman wakes up and attempts to take a knife. However, she she collapses on the floor, and Vesper hears this. When Vesper arrives, the woman asks where's the man that she was with, but the girl insists that she was alone. Hearing this, the woman asks her to search for the man, who happens to be her father. She guarantees to reward her, but Darius says they've already helped enough. However, Vesper wants to help the woman, who introduces herself as Camellia. That night, Vesper gives Camellia a bowl of food, which the woman thanks her for but doesn't eat. Instead, Camellia asks what happened to Vesper's father. The girl explains that he was injured after working for the Citadel's army, and the drone was all they gave him as compensation. Hearing this, Camellia promises to take her and Darius to the Citadel, claiming that her father is an influential man, so it should be easy. Vesper then notices that Darius' machine has stopped working, and he's having a seizure. As Vesper panics, Camellia walks into the room and breathes into Darius' mouth, miraculously calming him to sleep. The following day, Vesper searches for Camellia's father. Darius' drone accompanies her, and she asks what Camellia did to calm him down. He doesn't know, but he's sure that it wasn't normal among the people in the Citadel. Shortly after, they find the remnants of a glider where they see Elias, Camellia's father. Just as Vesper tries to let him out, Jonas and his boys appear. Noticing the drone, he wonders how Vesper got their power back, so she claims that she found a backup supply. He then goes over to Elias, who's begging for help. Hateful for the privileged people of the Citadel, Jonas suffocates the old man to death. Vesper tries to stop him, but she's no match for his strength. After this, Jonas realizes that there was another passenger, but Vesper lies that she only found the glider by coincidence. On the way home, Darius suggests not telling Camellia about what happened since it'd be dangerous if the woman did anything rash. Instead, he suggests stealing Jonas' transceiver to contact the Citadel. At home, Vesper lies to Camellia, claiming that they didn't find her father. Darius suggests calling the Citadel through Jonas' transceiver the next day, which the woman agrees to. As she goes to bed, Vesper notices that she's not limping, so she checks and finds that Camellia's injuries are healed. The woman points out the film Vesper used to cover her wound. The girl confirms that she made it, but it shouldn't have accelerated the healing process. Camellia compliments the girl, so Vesper takes the chance to show off her work. That night, Vesper takes Camellia to a greenhouse in the woods. Camellia's face lights up, seeing the different plants that Vesper has grown. Impressed, she expresses how her father would love to see her work as he was the synthetic biology head at the Citadel. As Vesper babbles about her creations, Darius reminds Camellia how much his daughter trusts her. Knowing that he won't make it to the Citadel with them, he wants to ensure that Vesper reaches her dreams and stays safe. Later, Camellia asks Vesper about her mother. Vesper says that she left them a year ago to travel with the Pilgrims. Pilgrims never speak and travel in groups, scavenging old junk with black veils over their faces. One morning, her mother lost her voice and left 2 days later. Some speculate that a virus causes people to become pilgrims, so Camellia suggests that her mother left because she didn't have a choice. In contrast, Camellia never met her mother. Vesper thinks it's better that way. After this, Vesper shows her animal book to Camellia, wondering if such creatures exist. Camellia confirms as the Citadel has generated such animals. As Vesper flips through the pages, Camellia identifies each animal's sounds, forming a bond with a girl. Suddenly, Vesper asks why the Citadel refuses to let people like her inside. Camellia explains that resources are low, so they must control the population. However, Vesper points out that they create jugs to work when people can do such work instead. Camellia explains how the Citadel likes control and jugs are hardwired to be loyal, unlike people. This disappoints Vesper. She then takes a zither and hands it to Camellia, so the woman plays a melody while the girl hums along. Meanwhile, dozens of pilgrims drag their junk in a far-flung area. The next day, Vesper sneaks into Jonas' farm to steal the transceiver. Through the drone, Darius checks the barns first, but Jonas suddenly calls Vesper to enter. To Vesper's surprise, Jonas is tweaking the drone, claiming that the gyroscope isn't working. When he asks why she's trespassing, Vesper explains that he still owes her for the blood. However, he knows she's lying, so he interrogates her about the missing seeds. He shares that Skinny claimed that bugs took them. He doesn't want liars in his family, so he sent him away. While staring down at her, Jonas notes that if he catches the bug who stole the seed, he'll tear off its wings and legs. After fixing the drone, he asks her about the other passenger from the glider, but Vesper replies that she doesn't know anything. Suspicious, he then reminds her that they don't do charity, so Vesper approaches, knowing that he's expecting something in exchange for fixing the drone. As the girl is in tears, he asks if she's hungry. When she nods, Jonas turns away to get food, but she quickly grabs the drone and runs. On her way home, Vesper tries to make the drone float, but Jonas tampered with it, so it flies away. As she tries to retrieve it, she discovers Skinny's rotting corpse. Meanwhile, Jonas orders his sons to go after Vesper. The girl runs as she hears them, but they catch up to her and brand her hand before leaving. This marks her as Jonas' property. When she gets home, home, she ignores Camellia and focuses on fixing the drone. After failing, Vesper breaks down as she can no longer communicate with her father. Camellia comforts her, saying that they'll fix the drone before finding Elias. However, Vesper confesses about her father's death. To prove this, Vesper takes Camellia to Elias' corpse, which floats in a small pond. The woman mourns in agony, so Vesper drags her out of the water. Just then, the girl notices a slit on Camelia's nape, similar to that of a jug's, so the woman confirms that she's an intelligent jug that Elias created. She and Elias were trying to escape the Citadel because creating an intelligent jug is a crime. Elias made a deal to gain refuge in another Citadel, but they crashed. Hearing this, Vesper realizes that they'll never get to the Citadel, so she lets her frustrations out by beating Camellia. Upon arriving home, Vesper fixes the drone again and succeeds. Darius tells her to leave because Jonas has already marked her. However, Vesper refuses and instead wants to trade Camellia to Jonas, hoping that he'd go easier on her. Meanwhile, Camellia attempts to kill herself by stabbing her weak point on her nape, but Vesper arrives to stop her. Grieving, Camellia finds no reason to live anymore, but Vesper tells her not to give up when things are hard. She shows Camellia a plant that didn't grow as expected. She realized that the plant mixed with a fungus, thus creating an orange pigmentation. Vesper notes that the flower changed its purpose, so Camellia can find another purpose despite her master's absence. After fixing Camelia's wound, Vesper asks for a sample of her to study. That evening, Vesper analyzes Camelia's DNA but finds a lock pattern. The woman doesn't know about it, though she recalls playing music for Elias whenever he works. Vesper hopes she has access to the Citadel labs to study her DNA, but Camellia tells her the Citadel isn't as beautiful as it seems. She starts playing the zither, and the DNA sequence on the screen pulsates. Vesper notices this, so she tells her to play the same note repeatedly. After putting another plant's DNA into the screen, Vesper realizes that it's similar to Camelia's, giving her the key to making the Citadel seeds fertile for a new harvest. Camellia realizes that Elias planned to share this knowledge with the other Citadel. With this, Darius tells the woman to take his daughter there, but Vesper chooses to stay and grow the plants there. Her father warns her that the Citadel will be ruthless if they discover what she knows, but the girl insists. Vesper goes to the old lab to gather more filters. While she's away, Jonas arrives and sees Camellia. Realizing that she's the other passenger, he invites her to come with him as he motions to pull the tubes from Darius' head. Before he can, Camellia agrees to go with him. Suspicious, Jonas checks her nape and discovers that she's a jug, so he stimulates the slit on her nape to make her his. Camellia tries to seduce him, but Jonas chokes her, not falling for her tactics. Just then, Vesper appears and attempts to stab Jonas. She gets overpowered, so Camellia and the drone team up to beat Jonas and stab his hand into the table. With another knife against his neck, Jonas prepares to face his end. However, Vesper offers a deal instead. She explains how she can unlock the seeds, and if he keeps Camelia's existence a secret, she'll share their food with him. However, once he's free, Jonas reports Camellia to the Citadel. That night, Vesper experiments with the seeds and finally unlocks them. Meanwhile, Darius' drone senses something, so he looks out the window and finds trees lighting up. The glow crawls towards the house, and a moss-like substance enters, consuming the surface. Vesper and Camellia climb the table to avoid it, but the moss reaches up and stops before touching them. Suddenly, it bursts into dust, and Darius alerts the girls not to breathe it. When the moss is gone, Darius tells his daughter to escape with Camellia. He urges her to trade the seeds to the South Citadel for her safety, but his daughter refuses to leave him. With no choice, he suggests letting her hide in the swamp, and he'll tell her if the coast is clear. Later, Citadel soldiers approach Jonas' house and shoot the man dead. After this, they head to Vesper's house, where Darius is alone. As they search the place, Darius' drone slams into the reactor, causing the house to explode. Hearing this, Vesper desperately tries to go back for her father, but Camellia stops her, reminding her of Darius' wishes. As more soldiers approach, the girls head to the greenhouse. On their way, Vesper warns Camellia not to touch the red grass. Unfortunately, the soldier following them does that, so flaming insects pierce through his chest. Vesper and Camellia crawl among the bushes, trying their best to hide. However, a parasitic plant hisses when it sees Vesper, revealing her whereabouts to another soldier. The girl tries to attack the soldier, and Camellia joins in. Realizing that she can't beat him in combat, Vesper shakes the bushes and allows the flaming insects to kill the soldier. Upon killing the man, Vesper hugs Camellia for comfort. Then they resume their escape. Soon, more soldiers arrive. Camellia realizes that they won't stop until she's captured, so she decides to surrender to keep Vesper safe. Vesper begs her to stay, but Camellia reminds her of the seeds and how she could change the world with them. She then kisses Vesper, and the girl falls asleep. Accepting Accepting her fate, Camellia waits by the garden and allows herself to be taken. The following day, Vesper wakes up alone. She returns home and finds everything in ashes. She takes out the seeds and plants a few when some of Jonah's children approach her. Taking them with her, they head to the South Citadel. Soon, Vesper sees a pilgrim and follows her to see where they take their junk. When they arrive, she discovers that the pilgrims built a massive tower using their scraps. She climbs to the tower's summit and gazes at the Citadel. She then turns to the barren lands on the opposite side. Deciding her own fate, Vesper releases the remaining unlocked seeds and allows the wind to take them. Those seeds will spread to the barren lands and provide food for the people outside the Citadel.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.